I didn't mean to save a Mafia boss, but when I heard Onolbam whispered in the rain, I knew silence would kill him. The story begins on a rain-slick street outside the Palazzo Nero Hotel, establishing Mara's character as a struggling mother calculating bus fare and medicine costs while waiting to get home to her young son, Danny. The atmospheric setting of neon hotel signs and wet pavement transitions sharply into danger when Mara recognizes the rhythm of Korean speech and the specific words for tonight. Inside the car. And won't see it coming. Mara's feet move before her brain catches up, her worn flats slapping against wet pavement as she sprints toward the man in the dark suit. She doesn't think about the bodyguards flanking him, or the insanity of what she's doing. She only knows that in 3 seconds, Enzo Caruso will open that car door, and whatever waits inside will kill him. Hajima, she shouts in Korean, her voice cracking as she grabs his arm. Chanin, Wihiamhi. Don't. Inside the car. Dangerous. The bodyguards converge on her instantly, hands reaching for weapons, but Enzo raises his palm in a gesture that freezes them mid-motion. His dark eyes lock onto hers with an intensity that makes her breath catch. Up close, he's younger than she expected, maybe 40, with sharp features carved from marble and rainwater streaming down his face. He doesn't speak, doesn't move, just studies her with the focus of a man who's survived by reading people in seconds. The sedan's door opens from the inside. A man unfolds from the back seat, wire garrote already stretched between gloved hands, confusion flickering across his face at finding his target still standing 3 feet away. The moment stretches like glass about to shatter. Then chaos erupts. Enzo's loyal guards move with brutal efficiency, weapons drawn, shouting in Italian. The assassin lunges backward into the car. Somewhere behind Mara, the 2 Korean-speaking guards break into a run. She stumbles, her purse falling to the wet pavement, and then Enzo's hand is on her arm, surprisingly gentle, pulling her behind the hotel's marble pillar. His body shields hers as gunfire cracks through the rain, sharp reports that make her ears ring. The sound dies as suddenly as it started. Mara's legs shake. She can feel Enzo's heartbeat against her shoulder, steady despite everything. And when he steps back to look at her, his expression holds something between calculation and wonder. How did you know? His English is perfect, accented with something European she can't quite place. Rainwater streams between them, turning the neon hotel sign above into bleeding crimson light. Mara opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. Behind them, men are shouting, and sirens wail in the distance, and she realizes with crystalline clarity that her life just shattered into something unrecognizable. The private room in the Palazzo Nero smells like leather and expensive coffee. Mara sits on a velvet chair that probably costs more than her monthly rent, her hands wrapped around an espresso cup the hotel manager brought with shaking fingers. She hasn't touched it. Her wet clothes leave dark patches on the upholstery, but no one seems to care. When Enzo enters with a thin man carrying a tablet, Mara expects accusations, threats maybe. Instead, Enzo gestures to the translator and begins speaking in rapid Korean, testing her. She catches the game immediately. Jianyan Tonggyokjiga Pilioiapsio, she responds evenly. I don't need a translator. Then she switches to Italian. Parlo 5 lingue. È il mio lavoro. I speak 5 languages. It's my job. Something flickers in Enzo's eyes, respect, perhaps, or recalculation. He dismisses the translator with a flick of his hand, and sits across from her, close enough that she can see the fine scar above his left eyebrow. Explain, he says simply. So she does. The words tumble out. Her year in Seoul teaching English, the hotel job that barely pays enough, Danny waiting at Mrs. Chen's apartment because childcare costs more than Mara makes in tips. She explains hearing the guards, recognizing Onolbam, understanding Chon-ain, putting the pieces together in the 2 seconds before Enzo reached for the door handle. Enzo listens without interrupting, his expression revealing nothing. When she finishes, he pulls out his phone and makes a single call in Italian. She catches enough to understand. Someone is being sent to collect her son. No. Mara starts to rise, panic flooding her chest. The men who wanted me dead saw your face. Enzo cuts her off, his voice quiet but absolute. They heard you speak Korean. By now they know your name, where you live, where your son goes to school. Retaliation is already in motion. The espresso cup trembles in Mara's hands. She thinks about Danny's gap-toothed smile, his dinosaur backpack, the spelling test he was nervous about tomorrow. Was nervous. Past tense. Because tomorrow doesn't exist anymore. Not the tomorrow she knew. I was just trying to help, she whispers. I know, Enzo says, and for the first time, something almost human crosses his face. That's the problem. The penthouse has floor-to-ceiling windows that turn the city into a glittering sprawl of light and shadow. Danny presses his nose against the glass, his breath fogging the surface, while Mara unpacks the hastily gathered belongings Enzo's men collected from their apartment. Her hands shake as she folds Danny's superhero pajamas. Mom. Danny's voice is small. He's 8 but looks younger right now, his dark hair still damp from the rain. Are we in trouble? Mara crosses to him and pulls him close, breathing in the scent of his strawberry shampoo. No, baby. We're safe. Everything's going to be fine. The lie tastes bitter. Through the window, she can see security cameras mounted in every corner of the living room, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes. The door has 3 separate locks, and a guard stands in the hallway outside. Protection or prison, she can't quite tell. That night, Danny falls asleep clutching his stuffed dinosaur, exhausted by fear he doesn't fully understand. Mara sits by the window, unable to close her eyes. The city glitters below, indifferent to her terror. She used to find comfort in its chaos, the anonymity of being one struggling mother among millions. Now that anonymity feels like a lost country she can never return to. Movement catches her eye. Across the street, tucked between a closed deli and a dry cleaner, a black SUV idles with its lights off. She can't see the occupants clearly, but she doesn't need to. They're watching. Always watching. Mara pulls the curtain closed, but it doesn't help. The shadow of Enzo's world has followed her here, seeping through the expensive furniture and the false safety of locked doors. She thinks about the hotel outside the Palazzo Nero. The moment her feet started moving, her voice rising to shout a warning. She'd do it again. Even knowing the cost, she'd do it again. But as she curls up on the leather sofa, Danny's soft breathing the only sound in the silent penthouse, Mara understands with terrible clarity. Protection and imprisonment look identical from the inside. The security alarm shatters the silence at 3:17 a.m. A piercing electronic shriek that yanks Mara from shallow sleep. She's moving before conscious thought kicks in, grabbing Danny from his bed and running for the bathroom. Her son is awake instantly, his eyes wide with the kind of fear that no 8-year-old should understand. Quiet, baby. Quiet, she whispers, locking the bathroom door with shaking hands. She punches the emergency number Enzo programmed into her phone, praying someone answers. They do. On the first ring. Breach, she gasps. Someone's inside. Lock yourself in the farthest room. For minutes. The voice is calm, professional, terrifying in its lack of surprise. Mara holds Danny in the bathtub, her body curled around his, counting her heartbeats. She hears footsteps in the hallway, heavy, deliberate. The apartment door crashes open. Shouts in a language she doesn't recognize. Then gunfire, closer than before, and Danny buries his face against her shoulder. It's over in 90 seconds. The bathroom door opens. Mara nearly screams, but it's one of Enzo's guards, showing his empty hands before speaking. Clear. He's coming. When Enzo arrives, his suit jacket is gone and his sleeves are rolled to his elbows. There's blood on his collar that isn't his. He looks at the subdued man zip-tied in the hallway. Kovalenko operative, someone murmurs, with an expression so cold it makes the temperature drop. Then he kneels in front of Danny, his features softening into something almost gentle. No one will reach you again, he says in English, his accent making the promise sound like a vow. I swear it. Danny nods, too shocked to speak. Enzo stands and looks at Mara. His dark eyes hold something she can't quite name. Regret, maybe, or recognition of a line they've crossed. Pack, he says simply. You're moving. Mara finds the envelope while gathering the last of their things, slipped under the apartment door like a dinner menu. Her hands tremble as she opens it. Inside is a photograph of Danny leaving Riverside Elementary 3 days ago, before any of this started. his dinosaur backpack bright against the gray concrete steps. Beneath the photo, 5 words in English. He can bleed through you. The paper flutters from her fingers. Enzo is beside her in seconds, his jaw tightening as he reads the message. For a moment he stands perfectly still. And Mara realizes this is what he looks like before violence. This terrible, frozen calm. He pulls out his phone and speaks 2 words. Trovatelli. Find them. The drive to the new location is silent except for Danny's soft breathing in the back seat. He's fallen asleep against Mara's shoulder, exhaustion finally overcoming fear. Mara watches the city slide past through tinted windows, streetlights creating patterns of light and shadow across her son's face. They knew where he went to school before you ever warned me, Enzo says quietly, not taking his eyes from the road ahead. The driver and guard in the front seat might as well not exist. This photograph is 3 days old. They were already watching. The realization settles in Mara's stomach like ice. She wasn't just a random witness who happened to understand Korean. She was a catalyst. The match that turned a simmering threat into an inferno. I made it worse, she whispers. No. Enzo's voice is firm. You gave me a chance to see the betrayal before it killed me. What they do with their humiliation isn't your fault. But Mara knows the truth now, reading it in the tense line of his shoulders and the way his hands grip the steering wheel. She's no longer just a witness to be protected, filed away in some safe house until the danger passes. She's a weapon being used against him. A way to prove that Enzo Caruso, the untouchable, can bleed. And her son sleeping trustingly against her shoulder is the blade. The estate unfolds like something from a movie. Wrought iron gates, a tree-lined drive, guards dressed as groundskeepers but moving with military precision. Inside, the house is warm in a way that surprises Mara. Not ostentatious, just comfortable. Living. A chef has prepared Danny's favorites for dinner. Chicken fingers, mac and cheese, apple slices cut into stars. Mara stares at the plate, her throat tight. How does Enzo know these things? What files has he compiled on them in the 48 hours since her life imploded? Danny, resilient in the way only children can be, digs in with enthusiasm. His bedroom upstairs has books about dinosaurs and space, exactly what he loves. There are new clothes in his size, toys still in packaging, a nightlight shaped like the moon. The gilded cage is very, very comfortable. That evening, Enzo joins them for dinner, unexpected and awkward. He sits at the head of the long table while Danny chatters about the toys upstairs, the woods he can see from his window, whether the guards would let him explore. Enzo listens with the focus of someone unaccustomed to children but trying. What do you do? Danny asks with 8-year-old directness. Mara starts to deflect, but Enzo answers honestly. I solve problems people can't solve themselves. Like a superhero? Something crosses Enzo's face. Pain maybe, or bitter amusement. Not exactly. Later, after Danny is tucked into bed, Mara finds Enzo in the kitchen making espresso. He pours her a cup without asking, and they stand in silence, the domestic normalcy of the moment bizarre against everything else. Thank you, Mara says finally. For all of this. For him. Enzo nods, but when he looks toward the stairs where Danny sleeps, his carefully controlled expression cracks. Just for a moment, Mara sees something raw underneath, longing, perhaps, for a different life, for the simple warmth of a child's questions and a mother's gratitude. Then the mask slides back into place, and he's the Mafia boss again. But Mara has seen behind it now, and she knows. Enzo Caruso is just as trapped as she is. Sleep won't come. Mara wanders the estate at 2 a.m., her bare feet silent on hardwood floors, drawn by insomnia and the weight of too many thoughts. She ends up near an open window, breathing the cool night air, when voices drift up from the garden below. Korean. The guards are speaking Korean. Her translator's brain engages automatically, filtering the casual conversation. At first it's mundane shift rotations, complaints about the coffee. Then one of them says something that makes Mara's blood freeze. Kovalenko dulian gyuniangium juriogo hesio. Jiango manol. The Kovalenkos only wanted to scare him. Just a warning. Gyuranjuyo jaga madun geosul mankiosiosio. But that woman ruined everything. The other guard laughs bitter. Ijgundulian kinuneaheo. Gyunyo tamian. Now they have to finish it. Because of her. Mara's hand grips the windowsill. She made it worse. She already knew that. But then one of them says something that stops her heart. Ayui hagjione onurigajo aileulderio ijeone imigam sidoego iseuseyo. Ulinian mayak saigan dwichiesio. The kids' school was already being watched before we got him. We were hours behind. Hours. They were hours behind. Which means Danny was taken. Not threatened. Actually taken. And Mara, locked in this beautiful house with her son sleeping safely upstairs, was never told. The betrayal cuts deeper than any physical threat. Enzo didn't protect Danny from danger. He used Danny's kidnapping as bait, let it happen, and kept Mara in the dark while her son was in enemy hands. Grief is harder to fake than ignorance. Isn't that what operatives say? Keep the asset unaware so their reactions are genuine? Mara backs away from the window, her whole body shaking. She thinks about Enzo kneeling in front of Danny, promising no one would reach him. The gentleness in his voice. The toys and books and carefully prepared meals. All of it was theater. Danny was never safe. He was bait in a trap, and Mara's maternal terror was part of the performance. She walks upstairs on numb legs and checks on her son. Really checks, pulling back covers to see his chest rising and falling, touching his warm cheek to confirm he's real and here and alive. Then she sits on the floor outside his room, back against the wall, and waits for morning. When dawn comes, she's going to Enzo's office. And this time, she's not asking questions. She's demanding answers. Mara doesn't knock. She shoves open the office door hard enough that it crashes against the wall. And Enzo looks up from a table covered in maps and surveillance photos. His tie is loosened, sleeves rolled up. He's been here all night. When? Her voice shakes with rage. When were you going to tell me my son was kidnapped? Enzo's expression doesn't change, which somehow makes it worse. He doesn't even have the decency to look guilty. Sit down. No. Mara's hands curl into fists. Danny was taken. Actually taken. And you kept me locked in your pretty house playing happy family while they had him. For 3 hours. Enzo's voice is clinical, precise. A low-level crew grabbed him from the playground. My extraction team had him back, before you finished breakfast that morning. He was never harmed. 3 hours. Mara's voice cracks. 3 hours my baby was terrified and alone, and you didn't tell me? He was kept at a separate location for 48 hours while I used his disappearance to identify every traitor and Kovalenko asset in this city. Enzo stands, moving around the desk. I kept you in the dark because grief is harder to fake than ignorance. I needed the Kovalenkos to believe their leverage was working. Mara slaps him. The sound echoes in the quiet office. Enzo's head snaps to the side, and for a moment, they both freeze, her palm stinging, his cheek reddening. She realizes distantly that she's probably the first person to strike Enzo Caruso in a decade. What am I to you? She demands, her voice breaking. A tool? A debt you're repaying? What? Enzo touches his cheek, and when he looks at her again, his mask is cracking. You're the person who saved my life when you had everything to lose. And I repaid you by turning your son into bait. He moves to the window, his back to her. I had a sister, Julia. She was 12 when a car bomb killed her, a bomb meant for our father. I was 17. I saw the men watching our house, saw them trailing our car. I did nothing because I didn't understand what the signs meant. His voice goes quiet. You saw the signs. You acted when acting meant losing everything. I spent 15 years making sure I'd never hesitate again, never miss another threat. And it turned me into someone who uses a child as bait to catch rats. The admission hangs between them, raw and undefended. Mara sees the truth. Enzo saved Danny because he couldn't save Julia. But in doing so, he used the same cold calculation that's kept him alive and made him monstrous. I can't do this, Mara whispers. I can't live in your world. I know, Enzo says. But it's too late now. For both of us. Enzo places a folder on the table between them. Inside are photographs, addresses, detailed dossiers, the complete architecture of the plot against them. Kovalenko leadership in their fortified compounds. The hired crew who took Danny, their families and histories laid bare. The low-level operatives, the Korean guards who betrayed him. everyone who played even a minor role. My standard practice is execution, Enzo says without inflection. Swift. Complete. No loose ends. He slides the folder toward Mara. You decide. She stares at him. What? You're the one they hurt. The one I used. So you decide what happens to them. His dark eyes hold hers. All of them. Mara's hands shake as she opens the folder. These are human beings. Monsters, yes, but humans with families and histories. The architect of the plot, Viktor Kovalenko, smiles in his photo like a businessman at a conference. The men who grab Danny look ordinary, forgettable. The Korean guards who betrayed Enzo are younger than she expected. She sits with the files through the night while Danny sleeps upstairs and Enzo waits in silence. She reads every page, studies every face, understands the web of coercion and loyalty and desperation that creates people who steal children for money. At dawn, she gives Enzo her terms. The architects, Kovalenko and his lieutenants, face your justice. However you normally handle that. Her voice is steady now. But the operatives who were coerced, the low-level crew, the guards who had no choice, they get relocation assistance. Clean identities. Money to disappear and start over somewhere your world can't reach them. Enzo studies her. You're offering them mercy. I'm offering their families a chance. Mara meets his gaze. Remove your enemies by giving them an escape instead of martyring them. It's pragmatic. And it's right. For a long moment, Enzo doesn't speak. Then he picks up his phone and starts making calls, implementing a strategy he's never used, rewriting rules written in blood. The Kovalenko syndicate doesn't fall through violence. It collapses through defection, operators taking Mara's offer and vanishing with their families into new lives. Weeks later, when the dust settles and the threat has dissolved, Enzo offers Mara a position. Translator. Consultant. Conscience for impossible problems. She looks at Danny playing in the estate garden, guards watching but laughing at his jokes now, no longer just stone-faced protection. She thinks about the families she saved, the cycle she broke. Danny comes first, she says. Always. And there are lines I won't cross. I know. Enzo's expression is different now, still controlled, but with something human underneath. That's why I'm asking. Mara accepts. Not because she's forgiven him, and not because his world is safe, but because a single moment in the rain changed both of them. And they're both choosing, however imperfectly, however impossibly, to build something better than what came before. They stand together watching Danny laugh, two people from different worlds finding unexpected understanding. The rain has stopped. The shadows remain. But for the first time since that night outside the Palazzo Nero, Mara believes they might actually survive this. Together.